Hey, what's happening, herpers? So I just got back from releasing those 2 gopher snakes. You already know what I'm talking about if you saw last week's video where I got a call to go remove 2 gopher snakes that had found a quail's nest in somebody's front yard. And now, as you can hear behind me, Bojangles has still been patiently waiting for me to get that shed skin out of his enclosure, so I'm not going to keep him waiting any longer, and I'm going to go ahead and let him have some time playing and exploring Elle, my Tegu's new playpen that I got for her, because I think Bojangles is still short enough that he shouldn't be able to get out. So I'm going to hopefully see how leaving the rattlesnake in the playpen goes while I clean out his habitat and get that shed skin out for you to get a closer look at. So if any of that sounds interesting to you, then make sure to hit the like button so I know to make more videos like this in the future, and we will get right into cleaning the rattlesnake's enclosure. Here we go. Oh, look at him. So now some people might be saying, and I've noticed this in comments recently in some videos that have reached people who might not be as familiar with reptile videos or just how reptiles behave. A lot of people think, oh my gosh, it's rattling, it must be terrified. And that's not really the case with rattlesnakes. It's just their instinctual way of saying, hey, I'm here, don't step on me, I don't want you to get any closer to me. But as you can see, he was starting to actively come out of the enclosure, kind of sniff around, see what's going on. So he wouldn't be moving towards me if he was actively afraid, but he's still going to instinctually rattle that rattle to let me know, hey, I'm here, and if you get too close to me or freak me out, I might bite you, and I'm packing quite a punch. So with that, the camera mount is going on to keep both hands free for paying attention and handling the rattlesnake. Here we go. Now, this should be a little bit lower stress on Bojangles and a little bit easier handling than he is used to, because instead of going into that confined bucket, I'm bringing him over to a much wider space that hopefully he should feel relatively comfortable just hanging out in while I clean his habitat. Now, he is missing out on the bath that he normally gets when I put him inside of the bucket for these little coming out of his enclosure excursions. But that's all right because he is a desert animal, so he definitely doesn't need to soak every time he comes out, and he just shed his skin, so I don't need to worry about him preparing for a shed anytime soon. Well, yeah, that's gonna be for you. I'm gonna spin him around and see if I can get a better in focus shot of him on my superior camera than just the iPhone. But that is Bojangles, the Western Diamondback rattlesnake, the albino Western Diamondback. And now I will bring him right over here. You can see he is much more laid back than Spot, where I assume at one point Spot was probably a wild-caught animal. Bojangles has spent his entire life in captivity, and it really shows. He's not rattling at me anymore. He's not doing the whole get away from me shtick. I'm gonna switch back to the better quality camera for this. So I just switched to using the better camera, and he started rattling again as soon as I walked away and came back. And that kind of works into what I was getting ready to say. Even though he has been in captivity his whole life, and he is much more easygoing than, say, Spot, my larger rattlesnake, I still wouldn't ever test my luck trying to free handle him, because he's still going to react instinctually under some circumstances. He knows me, he stopped rattling when I was handling him, I had my hands on him, got him into the playpen, and then he stopped seeing me for 2 seconds and saw me come back from, I'm guessing, from not being able to see me through that barrier. And just now, even that extra motion got him rattling again. And you just never know what might worry a rattlesnake. And when a snake is as well armed as a rattlesnake or any other seriously or medically significant venomous snake, it just isn't worth the risk of free handling them, both for the snake's safety and for, of course, my own safety. And if you want to know exactly how bad rattlesnake bites can be, you should check out a video I made back in October on the scariest venoms, because believe it or not, rattlesnakes made the list. So what I'm going to do is just leave this camera inside of the playpen. I'm going to go ahead and clean his habitat and get that shed for you. Okay, so there is the Bojangles cam. Hopefully he'll stop being as worried about me and take some time to do some exploring and take advantage of some of that out of the habitat time to stretch his legs. As you can see, we got a little bit of poop in that back corner, so I'll just lift up that whole hide, Let's see if we got any fangs in here. And yes, I did say fangs. If you are a longtime fan of this channel, you've seen me go digging through snake poop for fangs before, but I'm not seeing any in there today. But if that's of interest to you, you can see what snake fangs and poop looks like in this video in the top right corner now. And that is looking all pretty good. Got our nasty dried out rattlesnake poop, no fangs though. Bojangles is kind of quieting down, but it doesn't look like he's really moved yet. All right, what else do we have going on in here? That's clean in there. Just gotta make sure that that is totally stable in a way that it's not gonna accidentally crush them. And now let's check out the shed skin. So we were lucky enough to actually see a little bit of Bojangles' shedding process. I walked into the room when he was about halfway through. So this is still some pretty fresh shed skin. Just adding a little water so I don't rip it, getting it off of the agua bowl. And if you ever discover your snake shed way too late, or just not way too late, doesn't matter when you discover it, it's not harming your snake if it's just sitting in the cage for an extra night or two. But if you find it too late to the point where the shed skin has dried out and kind of gotten stuck to whatever surface it was touching before it dried, just re-adding a little bit of water can help kind of free up that stickiness that happens when the sheds dry out. And I'm being a little impatient here. Maybe I should care more, but I've got tons of rattlesnake skins at this point, so a little tear isn't the end of the world on an otherwise perfect looking shed. Before I go walking around, make sure I still know where the rattlesnake is. Yep, still there. But as you can see, there is his shed skin. And I talked about this just a little bit in the YouTube short, where that is the head side of the skin. But if we look down here at the tail, a telltale sign that you are looking at a rattlesnake shed is that the shed won't actually come to a pointy tip at the end. So here we are, switched to the better camera, and as you can see, this snake shed doesn't really come down to a pointy tip. In fact, if I can keep it in focus, that is the little hole at the end of the shed that the rattle came out of when the snake finished shedding the very tip of its tail. And if you ever see a shed that comes to just a big opening like this, it means either part of the shed ripped off, or you are looking at a rattlesnake shed, because if it was a non-venomous species, at least if you're living here in Arizona where we've got things like the gopher snakes we found last week or the king snakes, well, just like the gopher snakes we found in last week's video, most of the non-venomous snake sheds you find around here are going to have that pointy tail tip to the end of the shed, whereas rattlesnakes will have that clear-cut dead giveaway of there being an opening at the end of the shed for the rattle to exit. So that is how you can tell the difference between a harmless gopher snake or king snake shed and a little bit less harmless rattlesnake shed, although they still are kind of big scaredy cats, as you can tell, because this one still has not moved. So I've gone ahead and set up the camera in a better place, and I am actually going to just give him a little bit more space. That way maybe he feels safe enough to do some moving around in there. But I'm also thinking part of the problem is I haven't given him any hides in this space. It's just a big open area. So maybe I need to actually invest in or find some outside of the habitat kind of enrichment items. Maybe some fresh creosote or different rocks and hides like that. But if you guys have any ideas, let me know down in the comments, because I think this could be the beginning of a cool enrichment program for Bojangles. Well, since you don't seem like you're going to be doing any exploring of the playpen, I'm going to go ahead and take the better camera with me to check out your eye caps. You won't mind, will you? And there you have it. That is Bojangles' face, if you can recognize him. And we got one eye cap. There's the right one, or I guess the left one since this is inside out. And then there's the right one. Kind of flip it back to being how it was when it was on his body. Doesn't look quite as intimidating when the skin isn't on him. But anyway, there's his shed skin, and now I will go finish cleaning up his habitat before returning Bojangles to his enclosure. And meanwhile, Jada's just enjoying the show out there. So I'm just leaving the shed on those boxes under the fan. That way the shed skin can dry out a little further. And now I'm gonna go check back in and see if Bojangles ever went anywhere. Uh-oh. Nope, there he is. Well, if nothing else, this goes to show the people that think I'm cruel for having them in such small enclosures, even if they're given a larger space, doesn't necessarily mean that they are going to use it. Now let's see what else we got in here. Oh, she busted the little metal ring off of that. Truthfully, that thermometer I don't really rely on. I've got the laser heat gun over there. This was just attached to the tank and I didn't bother taking it off. But if that's not going to stay anymore, then I will at least get that out of there. And I am thinking Bojangles is overdue for a more complete kind of habitat makeover. So I'm not going to worry about peeling it off just yet. But let me know down in the comments if you would be interested in seeing Bojangles get kind of a revamped enclosure. I don't think he's ready for a larger enclosure yet, just because you can already see how inclined he is to use space. But I would like to do something to dress this up and make it look a little bit better and more like Cleo or Spot's enclosures. So let me know down in the comments if that sounds interesting to you, and or if you have any good ideas for how to go about doing that. But as you saw, I got the poop out of there and got that little brass ring out. I think that might be a little piece of poop back there. Maybe another one right there. But as you can see, rattlesnakes are fairly clean animals, not a whole lot of mess going on here, and I did recently change the bedding too, so I think he's about ready to go back. I'm going to just do a little mist down to freshen up the bedding, and then get Bojangles back home. Sound good to you? Take advantage of Bojangles being out of the enclosure to clean the inside of the glass. It is much easier that way, and I get to keep more of my fingers that way. Everybody wins. Alright, I'm thinking that looks ready for Bojangles to go home. And let's see if he has escaped and is plotting my murder. Nope, still sitting in the same place. Good boy. Well, I've finished cleaning Bojangles' enclosure. He has not really moved, besides his tail, which has been moving quite a bit over the last 30 minutes. So I'll go ahead and adjust this camera and bring it back over to his habitat. Alright, got our camera placed, got the body mount back on. Bojangles is still hanging out in the same spot, and his habitat is fully clean, so let's get him on home. Oh, first, I'm just gonna close this. See you in a little bit, Jada. And now he's ready to come out. And there he is. Let him get some time in the limelight. Also let him say hi to his big bro Spot. And now I'll bring him back home. Alright. Nope, not towards my hand. Greatly preferred if you, went back to your clean habitat. I'm gonna try not to let his tail smack anything because his rattle is getting long. I've got a feeling he might be losing some of those baby buttons soon. So there you have it. I hope you enjoyed this week's video. I hope it was worth the wait of me editing this video this week because of the kind of impromptu gopher snake rescue that I had to do last week. If you didn't see that video, go check it out. It is linked in the top right corner and below this video because they were some of the biggest gopher snakes I have ever seen, and they are the most successful rattlesnake lookalikes here in the state, even though they're completely harmless. Anyway, thank you again for watching the video. It really means a lot to me that you made it all the way to the end. And of course, thank you to all of the patrons that make this channel possible, starting with my head herpers, Allie Ward, Amanda Lynn, Deborah Torgerson, Jane Cabin Girl, JCH, Lindsay Justice, Sierra Sicard, and Tiffany H. Thank you to all of my head herpers who support me at the $10 tier level every month, and thank you to all of the patrons that support at the other tier levels and keep this channel possible. I couldn't do it without you. And if you're watching this and you are not currently a patron but would like to become a patron of this channel and get your name in the end credits of every full video, you can do so for as little as $3 a month. If you are interested in that, I will link to my Patreon down below. And with that, thank you again for watching the video. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your week. I hope you don't get any stuck eye caps next time you shed your skin, but most of all, I hope that you just keep herping.